Next, we are going to discuss on workflows. Workflows, very important in the catalog items. Workflows, they are nothing but it's an automated process that gets triggered when the RATM is created for fulfillment process, that gets executed for the fulfillment process of RATM, requested item. Right? So, workflow runs behind the scenes, and that is responsible for completing the delivery of the item for the ordered item. Right. So let us see how the workflow looks and what exactly it contains. So if I take any sample item, so there's a workflow attached for this item, right? Click on this. So this is how the workflow looks like. It has set of activities that gets executed uh, after the RATM is created. So it starts with begin, it ends with end, and in between there are a couple of activities. These boxes are nothing but activities. These boxes are nothing but activities, and you see there's a path here, right? These lines are called transition lines, and they are used to join the activities. Okay, so whenever you start the workflow, it may take any of the path. Okay, based upon the conditions defined in these activities, it takes some path, right? So this workflow will decide how the item should behave or execute. So for example, you see here, this is custom item 1, and this is a workflow attached to it. So click on try it, right? This is another different item, okay, not our item. So let's say so click on order now. So this request is generated. Click on this. Now this is a RATM, right? Now on this RATM, you see an option here called show workflow. So the show workflow will show you the workflow attached to this item, this RATM. Okay. Now click on the show workflow. Observe carefully here. This RATM is triggered for some approval. So this uses approval, and it is in requested state. So what do you mean by requested state? Requested state is nothing but approval is requested for this user. Okay, approval is requested for this user. So I'm approving this approval request. Approved. And if you check the workflow, so you see that execution started here. Execution started here, and then it is at the approval user level. Blue color means completed, green means it is currently running. Okay, so this activity is currently executed. That is nothing but this approval activity. So when you click on approved, refresh it, and refresh the screen as well, right? Now this is completed in blue color, right? And it has taken this path. So whichever like you see blue color path, that is completed. And currently this is executing, right? Now, so now group approvals are triggered. Two group approvals. That is nothing but this group approval group. So for two groups, approval is sent. Cab approval and application development. Now again, from this group, again it is approved, right? One of the approval is done. Still it is in the approval group stage. Now approved, right? Refresh it, refresh it, and refresh this as well. Now wherever you see the blue color path, it has taken that path, right? So now approval group is completed and it has gone to approval action finished. That is item approved. That means approval on this RATM, approval field on this RATM is changed to approved because of this action. Now, when you come to the next activity, it is saying as branch. It is saying creation of task. Branch is again divided into two parts, task 1, task 2. So these two tasks are created. Observe carefully. On the RATM, two tasks are created. That is after the group approval is completed. So two tasks are generated. One is task 1 and other is task 2, right? So let us complete this task 1. Completing this task 1 and refresh this. So task 1 is completed. It's in blue color, right? Next task 2 is still pending. It is currently executing. So complete the task 2 as well. Refresh. So now task 2 is also complete and both the outputs from the task 1 and task 2 are coming as inputs to this join activity. And after that, it has executed this RATM is completed activity. This activity, set values activity is completed. That means set values activity is nothing but state is changed to close complete. When two tasks are completed, the state is changed to close complete on the RATM. And when this is state completed, right? When this state is completed, there is a log message that got triggered. So ignore this. This is not much important. So next is this one, close the request, right? Close the request. So close the request means this request which is attached to the RATM that is completed, right? That is because of this activity. And after that, it is completed. That means workflow is completed. That means workflow is driving the catalog item process, correct? Based upon the activities designed here, the workflow, the RATM or the requested item or the catalog item is behaving, right? So this workflow runs behind or at the back end, which is going to drive the catalog item, a particular catalog item process. So we have to design a similar kind of workflow for our item to drive its process, basically. Getting it, guys? Right? So this kind of workflow we have to design, and attach it to our custom item 2, so that we can control the behavior of this particular item through that workflow. Clear? Santoshi, Vinod, Sandeep, how the workflow is actually working, or how can you check the backend flow of the catalog item through the workflow? Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Now let's create our own workflow. So before that, we should know some theoretical idea on workflows, right? So if you want to create any workflow, what you can do, type workflows in the application navigator, right? And you see there's an application menu called workflow, and you see workflow editor here. Click on this. Click on this workflow editor, and you will see uh, a new window opening up. So welcome, and you see published, checkout, and help. Right? Published means these are all list of workflows present in the system. These are all list of workflows present in the system, and they are published. They are published. See, published is true. Checkout. So these are all checked out workflows, and the filter is checked out by current logged in user. We'll see what is this published and checked out in the coming discussion. And so these are all list of workflows that you see in the list view. And you can create new workflow using this new workflow button, right? Otherwise, you can also use this plus mark, plus symbol to create the new workflow. And workflows tab here, you see. Here also you see all the workflows present in the system. These are all different workflows present in the system. If you want to open any, just highlight on that, place the cursor on that, and double click. Right? So it is opening on the left side screen. So these are all. So these are all the workflows, and clicking on that, it will open the workflow in the left side screen. Right? So let's talk about this. This is called title of the workflow. Okay. This is called title of the workflow, and this is the state of the workflow. Published is a state, and this is called canvas tab. See here, if I open another workflow, so you see the workflows are opening in tabs, right? So these are called canvas tabs. Title, canvas, tabs, right? And the portion where you're seeing the actual workflow, the portion where you're seeing actual workflow, this is called canvas. Okay, so you can say components in the workflow. So title, canvas tabs, canvas. Next. So these are palette tabs. These are called palette tabs. See, there are again tabs here, right side. They're called palette tabs, and these are called items placed in each tab. They're called palette. Okay, palette. Right. So these are the 5 things that we should remember. They're not much important, but they may be asked in the certification. So title means title of the workflow. Canvas tabs means each workflow will be displayed in tabs. That's called canvas tabs, and this is called canvas. And these tabs are called palette tabs, and these are called palette items. Right. Core activities. Right. So workflow will be built using the core activities. Workflow is built using the activities. So just now we have seen, right? So these are all the activities. These are all the activities, and these blocks are nothing but activities, and these lines joining the activities, they're called transition lines. Okay, transition lines, lines joining are called transition lines. Okay, and activities are items present okay, activities are individual items present in the workflow, and workflow is built using the activities like core activities. So like approval activities, conditional activities, notifications, tasks, timers, utilities, right? These are all the core activities present in workflows. See here, you can minimize this palette and maximize this palette. Okay, so if you see core tab, see there are activities here, core activities. So these are all core activities: approvals, conditions, notifications, tasks, timers, utilities. Some of them are not much important. Okay, we are not going to discuss about that. Only the one which are majorly used are important. Those will be discussed now. Okay, so approvals, conditions, notifications, uh, tasks, timers, utilities. These are all important, right? So what are these approvals? Approvals are nothing but, you see, these activities are related to approvals. So we had seen approval is triggered to the user and approval is triggered to the groups. That is done through approvals, right? To trigger the, they are used to trigger the approvals to the users or groups, right? Next, conditional. They are used to check if the conditions are met. Okay. Notifications. To trigger the notifications to the users, right? Tasks are used to create catalog tasks to the users. Timers are used to define the timer percentage. Used to define the utilities. So these are all the general activities that will be used uh, for setting the values on the records or so join branches. These are all general activities that we will be using the workflows uh, to simplify the workflow basically. Okay, these are general activities used to perform specific operations on the RATMs, requested items. Right. Any questions up till here? Any doubts, guys? Right. Let's continue. So first is approval activities. Right. So first, what we will do? We'll try to create the new workflow and use these activities. So let's click on this plus. So we are creating new workflow now. So give the name of the workflow as workflow for custom item 2. Okay. Now say requested item. So select table as requested item. Give the name as workflow for custom item 2. Click on submit. As soon as you create the workflow, you will see start and end activities by default. Right? So start or begin or end activities, they come by default. Now we have to create the activities and place the activities between start and end. Right? You can expand this. Okay. Right? These activities are draggable. And you can click on this particular transition line and you can delete it using delete button. Right? Now let's work on approval activity first. That means this workflow will be attached to the item, and once the workflow is attached, the workflow will trigger as soon as you're ordering the item. So we are creating the workflow on requested item table sc underscore req underscore item. So this is an entry question. So workflow for the catalog item is created on the table called requested item. That is sc underscore req underscore item. So if you expand this core activities, you see approvals, expand it again here. So you see approval user, approval group, right? So if you want to trigger an approval to specific user, okay? So as soon as item is ordered, if approval should be sent to the manager of the user, then you can use approval user for that. Okay, if you want to send an approval to the manager after the item is ordered, you can use approval user. Simply drag and drop here. Drag from right, drop it on the left canvas window, and give some name, something like managers approval. Okay, name of the activity is managers approval, and whom should be triggered. So I want to trigger it to manager of the user who requested it. So where is our custom item to? Here it is. Open it. Right. So on this item, so there is something called manager here. Correct. So select the user first. So whenever you are raising the request for this particular item, you're selecting the variables here, right? Abel tutor, and he's a manager of the Abel tutor. Now approval should be triggered to this manager. First approval should be triggered to this manager. So I want to trigger approval to the RATM, approval to the manager for this user on the RATM. So now we have to get this particular manager from the item that you are requesting and then trigger the approval. So how do you get this? Observe it carefully. So this is written on RATM table, right? Now, so you have here approvers. So you have here conditions as well. Okay, you can also check for conditions. Based upon conditions, what conditions you want to trigger the approval. So, but we do not have any conditions right now. We are directly triggering the approval. So here you see users and groups. Okay, so you can trigger the approval to the user using this users list field. So you can select the users from here, right? You can select the users from here because it is a reference to user table. But we do not want to add the users statically. Manually, we do not want to add users like this. I want to trigger the approval dynamically to the manager. If I'm changing the user here, manager will change here. So based upon that change, I want to trigger the approval. So I do not want to hard code the users here. And groups is used to trigger the approval to the group of users. So which groups? So you see, it is reference to groups table, and these are all the groups, right? So this users can be used to hard code the users manually, but I don't want to hard code the users, right? Now click on this advanced. Advanced is used to write some script here, right? So it's a script window where you have to write some script and then trigger the approval to this user. So you can write the script. If the options are not meeting or are not uh, sufficient to you to trigger the approval, it means using these options, if you're not able to achieve the requirement, you can write the script, right? If the options are not able to achieve your requirement, then you can write the script, okay, for the specific use case. So what you can do, write the script here. So in which format? This format. So they have given us the example here. So here you see they have declared some array here using answer variable equal to empty array, and they're pushing the id1, id2 using push function, and they're using push function to push this id1 to the array. Okay, what is this id actually? Id is nothing but sys id of the user. Sys id of the user. So this user sys id we should get, and then we should add something like this. Observe carefully how I am doing. I want to get the manager sys id, right? I want to get the manager sys id of this user. So how can I get it? Observe carefully. So variable manager is equals to current dot, okay, variables. So these are all variables, right? I can call these variables using keyword called variables. Current item dot variables dot. So I can call this with this variable name. So what's the variable name? There's a manager here. So backend name of the manager variable is this. Copy this. So it is current dot variable dot which variable? Manager variable, right? So I'm getting the value present on this manager variable, and I'm I'm checking the value present on this manager variable, and I'm storing it on the mgr variable, right? So this is a reference variable, okay? This will get the sysid of this referenced user. So this will get the referenced user sysid, right? Reference will always stores the sysid. So this manager field stores the sysid of the referenced user. So that sysid will be getting it here using this syntax, and we are storing the sysid in mgr variable. Now declare something like this: answer equal to empty variable, empty array. Okay, same syntax, use it here, right? So I have to push the id, okay, sysid. So I have the sysid here in the manager variable, mgr variable. Copy that, use it here. So answer dot push mgr, right? So if you want to push another manager sysid, use this way. Okay, use this way, right? So you have to pass the exact valid sysid here of another manager, but in our case only one manager, right? Is this clear, guys? So this first line will give us the sysid of the manager, and we are storing it in the mgr variable, and next lines are automatically they are given in the example. We have to write some script like this, right? So we are just changing the id1 with MGR variable name, because MGR stores the sysID of the manager. Any questions up to here? Sandeep, Santosh, Shyam, Vinod. Any questions?
Yes.
Are we good? Right. Observe carefully now. Click on submit. Right. Click on submit. Now, so I'm deleting this transition line using select it and then click on delete. So once the workflow is started, I'm joining this begin with approval user. Joining this way. Just place the cursor here. Just drag the line and then place it here. So you see, it is joined, right? Now, what you can do, copy this workflow, okay? Copy this workflow and paste it here, right? Select it, then save it. Clear? Right. Now let's test the workflow. So I just added one activity. So open this RITM. Now you see approvers on the RITM. It is sent to approval to this user. Who is this user? This user is nothing but manager of this user. Correct? Amilo capital. So this user is triggered for approval. So workflow is triggering as expected. So click on show workflow. So this is running as expected. Clear, guys? Any questions? So we are not hard coding the manager, but we are dynamically picking up the manager from the catalog item form. Any questions? All right. So this is the approval user. So it will trigger the approval for a user. Now approval group. This is used to trigger approval to the groups. Approval to the groups. So group approvals, right? So it is used to trigger approval to the groups. So I'm naming this activity as group approval. And so you see here groups, approvers, and then groups. So you can hard code groups here. So you can select the groups, whichever the groups you want to trigger, you can select them and you can add them. So cap, approval, or big data. So any of the group you can select and then you can add. But if you do not want to have them statically added, you can still go with advanced. Same again. To define something like this, add the group IDs, group sysids. Okay, onto the and push them onto the array variable like this, right? And one more thing, On the approval user, you have some conditions here. Conditions for approval. Okay. What are these conditions for approval? Wait for anyone to approve or wait for everyone to approve. Okay. And approval column, approval journal. Right. So this is for approval. This is for rejection. So approval can be either approved or rejected. Correct. So this condition is for approval and this condition is for reject. So when do you decide an item is approved or not? When do you decide an item is approved or not? So this item is decided to be approved based upon some conditions. So see here, wait for so there are 4 drop downs here. Anyone to approve. For example, here we are triggering only one approval, correct? So if there are multiple approvals, so this option talks about anyone to approve. So any one person is approving, that is fine. That is fine. So no other person need not approve. So if 2 approvals are triggered, right, using this activity, then one of the person is approving, that is fine, sufficient. We need not wait for other person's approval to complete the approval process. All right. So that is nothing but anyone to approve. Anyone can approve. One person is approving, that is sufficient. Everyone to approve. That means all the approvals approved. All the approvers should approve the request. All the approvers should approve the request. First response from anyone. That means if there are group approvals, for example, right? In this approval user activity, if you are using group approvals as well. 2 groups we have triggered for approval. Now, first response from anyone. That means a person from each group is responding on the approval. Then that is sufficient. A first person from each group is responding on the approval. That is sufficient. Not that everybody should approve. One person from each group, if he is approved, it is sufficient. Conditions based on script. That means if these conditions are not satisfied, then you can write some script based approval decision to approve the request. So you can write some script and take the decision on approval. So that is done through conditions based on script. If you click on this, you will see some script window where you have to write the script here. Okay. So this is rarely used. Okay. Conditions based on script. Most of the approvals are satisfied with these conditions alone. Okay. Only exceptional cases can be used this one. So this is very important as interview point of view. So how do you decide an approval is considered to be approved or not? It is options are anyone to approve, everyone to approve, first response from anyone, or conditions based on script. This is for approval. And what about rejection? So if a person is rejecting the approval, then if this condition is selected, then it rejects the approval for that request. And if this option is selected, then all the other approvals are to be checked. whether they are rejected or not. Wait for other responses before deciding. So we have to wait for other responses, other approvals from other persons before rejecting the request. So this condition talks about the rejection. This first one talks about approval, right? So these are very important, okay, with respect to interview point of view. They won't be asked in the certification, okay? They are important for interview. Any questions up till here?